All right, so we're here with Joe Everest, the fence expert,
Yep.
YouTube star, fencing aficionado, all of the above. Joe, thanks for coming in today.
I appreciate it. It's funny hearing that because I'm a fence guy from Springfield, Missouri.
Yep.
Like that's the title I give myself. But it's this whole social media thing when it really gets out of control sometimes.
Yeah,
In a good way.
That's cool though. I mean, I think people are learning from your channel. I've watched a lot of your clips, and it's like your goal there is primarily. I mean, it's educational. It's building a brand. Obviously, all the
Sure, definitely
go with it. But the primary focus is how to build great fences and what you guys do.
Yeah, it really is. And that's when we started out, we kind of had that in mind, right? So where this started is, well, there's a whole big long backstory, but the goal was to help answer questions I kept getting, right? Like, hey, what are the top 5 things to do? What are this? What are that? Hey, does this product work or does it not? So I thought, well, that's probably some content we can, we can produce. There's a book called They Ask You Answer. And when I'm talking to contractors, I say that is your foundational book because that was my foundational book.
Yeah.
Right? It's just your top 5 to 10 questions you're tired of answering. That's the content you produce.
Yeah.
If one person asks you it, there's probably more people out there that has that same question. So that's kind of where the channel came from, is just answering questions I was getting a lot.
So you guys have been in the fence business for 55 years, I think, right?
Well, since 1955.
1955.
Yeah.
I knew there's 55 there somewhere.
It's right in there.
So family business, 3 generations deep.
Yeah.
How to break some of that down for me? It's a lot of history. What are some pivotal moments in your business or decision points or maybe even your decision to decide to take it?
Yeah.
Because it's your grandfather, father, you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So my grandfather and his brother-in-law started the business back in 1955 because his brother-in-law owned a steel foundry. There was another family in town, the Carnahans, that had a steel foundry that had a fence company. It's still around, Carnahan White. And so really they had saw them do it a couple years prior. And, brother-in-law said, hey, I've got a steel foundry. So we could probably do this fence thing too. And they did. So then a few years later, my grandfather said, I'd like to do this fence thing full time. And brother-in-law sold to him his shares of it and stuck with the steel foundry. And, that's where the history started. My dad bought it from my granddad. It was kind of everything happens for a reason, right? Timing is everything, and I don't think there's a lot out there that's left to chance. But so my dad went to college, got a degree. He ended up as executive director of the East Coast operations for a company called United Cerebral Palsy. They help families, with children or adults with cerebral palsy in the East Coast. Well, he got to a point where they were having to bring a new guy up behind him, so they needed him to either go to the legislative arm in Washington, D.C. or corporate, like national headquarters in Dallas. And so neither one of those, me and my siblings were all pretty young. I would have been 11 or 12, so then my other siblings would have been like 9 and 4 or something like that. So neither one of those were good options for a young family. We came back for Christmas, as we always did, and we're sitting around the dinner table, and my granddad said, well, now that I've all got you here, I want to let you know I'm going to sell the company. I'd like to sell it to one of you, but I'm going to sell it to somebody. I'm ready to get out. So all this happened in the course of like a month, where my dad had gotten the news that he was going to have to move, wasn't comfortable with that, sit down at the table, my granddad's selling the fence company.
Just a coincidence, right?
Right. So, and this was a business my dad grew up in. I mean, that's the thing about family businesses is, the sons are the good, cheap labor while they're young. So, and I'm passing that down to my daughter now. So it's, it's a family thing. But so my dad knew the business. He'd grown up in it. And it was a good, stable business. It had a good brand reputation in town. And it moved us back, us as a family. I was born in North Carolina, but it moved us back to Missouri, to Springfield, Missouri, where my dad and all his family were from. My mom and all her family were from. My mom's family's out in Stratford, so it's pretty close, right down the road. So it brought us back to family. And my dad bought it in the mid-'90s, moved us all back. And 2000, so then I grew up in the company. So that's first thing back. I moved. It was a whirlwind transition from moving from, just a different environment where I was an executive son sort of thing, and then moved back, and now all of a sudden we're in the construction trade, right? And so it's picking up trash out of the lot, it's nuts and bolts, making sure those are accounted for, getting screws out with a magnet across the lot, and then fabricating gates. So started at the bottom there, worked my way up through it, installed fences for quite a while, sold fences for quite a while. And then in 2016, it's funny how these family conversations happen. So my dad had come to me and said, we've been doing commercial fence, but I want to focus on it. We did residential and commercial. We did some government work, and everyone kind of did everything sort of thing. He said, I want to focus on commercial. That's where I want my focus to be. So I'd like you to run the residential and the day-to-day. Keep those off my plate. Just let me focus on commercial. So I thought about it, and I said, well, what that sounds like is I'll buy the business from you, and I'll let you run our commercial division. I'll take the rest of it off your plate. And like any dad would, he said, no, you're not listening. What I said was, you're going to do this, and you're just going to let me focus. And I said, well, okay. Well, we whittled away at it for several months until finally we kind of both came to an agreement. And what is it? The saying is like the best negotiation. No one's happy. Neither side's happy at the end of a negotiation, or both sides can be happy. And we came to an agreement. Yeah. And then so I bought the business from my dad in 2016, and we've been growing ever since. We were growing then, but we've had some really good growth since.
Yeah. What are some of so on the family dynamics, it's not uncommon in the construction trades, anything. I mean, it happens quite a bit. What are some keys you would say? So you still love your dad? You guys all still get along?
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some of the keys? Because, I mean, business and family can break stuff sometimes. What are keys to your family sticking together through that?
It's tough. It really is, because when I was living with my parents and working for my parents, conversations, arguments that start at work come home. Right. And my mom really, bless her heart, tried to enforce the rule of leave work at work. Yeah. And it would be a very tense dinner, and then somebody would say something. It's like, oh, yeah, well.
You're chewing too loud.
Yeah.
You always chew too loud.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, you're getting a second portion. Yeah. Interesting. And then it would just be, so I think forgiveness is a big part of it, right? Is just knowing that sometimes being right isn't the objective, right? I mean, because in a lot of these fights, both of you, it's like the negotiation, both of you end up walking away unhappy, right? Like even if you win, did you really win?
You can win and lose.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So forgiveness is big. I don't know. It's hard because the answer is we just made it work. Yeah. Right. It's just we see a problem, and I think communication probably plays into that. Communicating the problem, like, hey, this is what I think the problem is. And then I think what we find is on the other side, they're like, well, no, that's not the problem at all. What I think the problem is this. And so, I mean, we could be arguing over two completely different things, thinking we're talking about the same thing. If that makes sense. No, it
makes a ton of sense. I think it's like this family communication dynamics in general, but you're just adding the business as another potential disagreement point on things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's the stress that goes along with it. Yep. I mean, in construction now, take the last 2 years out of the equation. Construction is very seasonal, right? Yeah. At least in fencing it is. And so through the wintertime, business is slower. Mm-hmm. Well, that makes the stress level go up a bit, right? Not as much cash flow coming in. So, disagreements tend to happen in the winter. And there's this whole thing, lack of sunlight also affects people's mood. And a lot of things came into play. And it's just handling that through communication. Yeah, absolutely.
You talked a bit about the family dynamic over the years of kind of how it got passed down in those decisions, but you took just the business side of it, because we're both Springfield companies. Like I know who Ozark Fences just by living here. I see the brand, I see the trucks, I see the tags, I see it. You know who it is. You guys are a big operation in town. But what were some of the key maybe business decisions or maybe forks in the road that you guys came to from a strategy thing that in hindsight, you're like, that was a good decision?
We absolutely poured ourselves into marketing and branding. Right. So, and I don't want this to sound like a slight on any of the other generations, right? Because we make decisions that are in front of us. Yep. Right. And when my dad owned the business, marketing was the yellow pages, and it worked really well. Mm-hmm. Right. You pull full page ad done really nicely, and that was your lead generation. Yeah. I saw the writing on the wall kind of early that maybe that's not the best course. I mean, because I saw big companies that had these things called websites. Like, well, we should probably have a website, right? So we did that, which was funny. So our first website was built by AT&T. So the Yellow Page guy came in and said, well, you know what? We've got these things called websites. I'm like, wait a minute. I've seen all the big brands have websites. Like, we could have a website, this little fence company. Yeah. So the Yellow Pages built our first website, which so they kind of saw I think they kind of saw the change coming too, and tried to pivot into it. But so we did that, and then really poured ourselves into social media. It was really new and young. To my dad's credit, he gave me a Facebook budget when Facebook was cat pictures, right, and pictures of kids. We played around with it, and we found some really good success. It made the phone ring. And then I thought, So I took a few classes on marketing and branding. Yeah. At the time, our colors, we didn't have a set of colors, right? So, kind of blue with like gold letters is very regal. But the moment that hit me, so I was learning about branding and marketing and that sort of thing. But I was sitting, actually, at the time, the Springfield the Chamber of Commerce held a big business expo. And so we had a booth there, and I was looking out, and I saw a sea of blue. I mean, there was black and brown and everything, but a sea of blue. Right. Like, wait a minute. So all we're doing is blending in. Right. So I would really like to stand out. Now, we also had, so this is on my mind when we were on a job site. We're on a commercial job site, which we did not know at the time had an OSHA recordable event previously. So there was more scrutiny on this site than normal. And our guys had the tendency of not wanting to wear their reflective vests. They caught on things, they snagged, they're uncomfortable. Okay. So Dad sends a crew out. They come back like an hour later. He said, well, what? He was planning on them being gone the day. I said, what are you guys doing back? So, they weren't ready for us. Well, I talked to him yesterday. I know for a fact that they were ready for us. So he called him up. He was like, Jim, I had to send your guys off because they showed up without safety vests. I asked them to put them on. They said that they were in the truck and they were going to get them. I walked around the corner. I came back. They still didn't have them on. Asked them to put them on. I watched them put them on. I walked back around the corner. Came back a few minutes later. The vests were off again. He said, we're under OSHA scrutiny here, so sends them away. And so that was kind of the moment, was that we need our guys in reflective colors, right? So, and it was that green color or the orange. And I thought, I looked around and I saw more orange available just from like marketing pieces because, here in the Midwest, we've got sports teams all over that are orange, right? So you've got OSU, or you've got, one of the Oklahoma teams. I don't follow college sports.
Yeah. OSU's orange.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. And then Texas. And anyway, so you got a lot of orange out. So like, okay, so there's a lot of orange available that we could brand with. And I personally liked orange better than I liked the safety green color. And so all of our guys started wearing orange, but we were still wearing those blue and gold with gold letter shirts. And I was like, I kind of saw it coming. I was like, I feel like we're creating a divide here, right? That the office wore blue and gold and the field wore orange. Like, this seems like setting us up for some divisiveness. So I told my dad, so we're all wearing orange. I'm getting us polos and we're going to wear orange. My dad's like, I don't really want to wear orange. Well, at this point, I own the company. So I was like, we're wearing orange. Right. So remember those times where me and you got in arguments and the argument was settled when you said that you signed the check? Yeah. I don't want to say that because I know you're still my dad, right? Yeah. But we're going to wear orange shirts. Yeah. And to his credit, he fought it for about 10 minutes. Yeah. And then he's like, okay, if that's where we're going, that's where we're going. And then we just dove headfirst into it. So I've got a friend, you would know, DeLong Plumbing. Yep. So JW, his dad, Gary, had color branded everything yellow. Yep. And I saw how effective that was. I mean, the trucks. Their boat dock at the lake is yellow. Yeah. Right. So it's like, these guys take this so seriously. But everyone knew it. Right. Everyone knew if something was yellow, it was probably DeLong's. Right. It's like, we should be that for orange. Yeah. And there was another company, there's a trash company in town that had done a lot of things orange, but they had just sold. Yeah. So there weren't any local brands that were orange. Like, wait a minute, our guys are wearing orange, we're wearing orange. Our company colors will now be orange. Yeah. And so I called JW and I was like, hey, just so you hear it from me, like, we are definitely ripping off your idea, but it's not yellow. We're going to do orange. And he's one of my best friends. So he laughed it off. And it was history from there, right? So now it's a game of how much orange can I incorporate into everything?
Yeah.
The walls in our front office are orange. Obviously, our trucks are orange.
Your watch band is orange.
Watch
your phone
band,
case is orange.
wedding ring, photos. Yeah, it's a thing. But when you become so obsessed with something like that, you become known for it.
Right.
Right. So
I think that's the thing, is like being known.
Yes.
Right? People know who it is, on
site.
Yeah.
I had a guy, we were picking up some welding supplies, some welding gas. I had a guy pull up. He's driving this orange dually, and he comes over and he says, "Hey, can I get some business cards from you?" I said, "Oh, yeah, absolutely." So I handed him some cards, said, "Thinking about a fence?" I said, "No, but every time or every other time I stop for fuel, somebody's asking me for an Ozark fence card because I'm driving this orange truck.
Right.
So I'd like to have some to hand out."
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you like some more?
Yeah.
But this guy had just a plain orange truck. I mean, it was a nice looking truck, don't get me wrong, but no branding, no anything like that. But people just assumed, since it was an orange truck, it was an Ozark fence truck.
I think the power of a brand, right? Like if you create that, people know what it is, it's memorable, it sticks in their head, but it's also, you stand behind it with the quality of work that you guys do. And then,
right.
And because I think some people say, well, I just got to choose a color and that's going to be my thing. It's like, no, it's making it memorable, but also having the quality and the craftsmanship behind what you're doing,
That's right.
And I think one thing about building a brand, we work with a lot of people in the construction industry and a lot of folks that are smaller than what you guys are, right? It's 5 or less employees,
sure.
And they're trying to evolve from being the owner operator into like a business with a team to try to really build a business instead of just owning a job, right? And so, how would you recommend someone like that? The impact of brand, because let me rephrase it this way: you're not just, oh, you need a fence, call my guy Joe.
Sure.
No, you need a fence, you call it Ozark Fence.
Fence. Yeah.
And there's a big difference between being the guy and having a team and a brand that people trust.
Brand identity is a huge thing, right? And that's what it comes down to, is our brand is known for orange. Now, people also know me for orange, but we joke that we are Ozark Fence Orange, right? And Ozark Fence is obsessed with orange, and we do it by on our social media channels. Once a week, we have a funny orange joke, and it's like a dad type joke. It's like the knock knock, aren't you glad sort of thing. And that was we used that tagline for a little while. Aren't you glad you picked Ozark Fence? Yeah, just to get that reaction.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't Joe Everest is obsessed with orange. It's Joe with Ozark Fence.
Yeah.
And we did a video series for quite a while, Ask a Fence Guy Friday, where I did a live. And I would always start out that way. Hey, guys, it's Joe with Ozark Fence. We're talking about fence stuff for the next hour. Pop in, ask me your questions. I'm always here to help. But we tried to make sure everyone understood our brand identity was orange. It wasn't Joe Everest. It was Joe with Ozark Fence. But that's tough in that scenario when you're going from craftsman to owner-operator to a team.
Yeah.
And those are 3 big steps. And you start out as the craftsman, though. So you're the guy. So it's Joe's known for building good fence. And then you turn into owner-operator. It's like, well, Joe and his wife and this and that. And then you grow into this company. It's a big, hard step. But I think it's how you present yourself. I think it's not, hey, guys, it's Joe Everest. I'm out here building a big fence. Or good fence. It's Joe with Ozark Fence. And we're going to talk about fence today. Yeah. If that makes sense.
It makes a ton of sense. I think because then we've talk to guys who are trying to make that leap. And if you never make that change, then no one ever wants to talk to the other guys in your team. They only ever want to talk to Joe.
Well, and let me tell you, that still happens.
Yeah.
So I go through this about once or twice a week, where somebody that I personally know will call me and say, hey, I need a price on a fence. Like, well,
you got a whole sales and estimating crew that does that.
And we have a process.
Yeah.
And I understand there's plenty of times where I would have picked that lead up and jammed it into the system, and it wouldn't have worked well, right? Because it didn't follow the process. I would have tried to slide it in on step 4 and then hope it worked from there down. But we didn't do step 1 through 3.
Yeah.
And so stuff always ended up getting messed up, and people weren't sure where it came from. And so now the answer is, if you want a price on a fence, we've got an online quote tool. It's on our website. Look for it. Like, well, I don't want to use your website. I want to talk to you. Like, I understand.
Yeah.
But please understand that we have a process, and it works really well if you start at step 1.
I think that can be hard for guys in that stage too, because there's an element of pride to be like, well, they called me.
Right. There is. And there's also you want to hunger to make sure that theirs is taken care of super well, because they mean something to you. That's why they're calling you.
Correct.
So I want to make sure it's done really, really well. So I'm going to personally handle this. The problem is, your team gets used to that.
Yep.
Right? Like, oh, this is what – here's a funny thing. So talking about generations, when I was a kid, my dad used to roll his eyes when my granddad would bring a project in.
Yeah.
His name was John. So this is the John deal. Oh, this is the John project. Because we knew he was going to make assumptions and he was going to, it was going to be something off the wall.
Right.
And my dad was like, he would always get aggravated about it. Well, what's funny now is walk into our shop and watch my dad bring in a piece of paper and have the guys go, oh, it's a gym job.
Yeah.
And I call my dad on it occasionally. I'm like, remember about those John jobs? Yep. Remember those?
Yeah.
They're now gym jobs. And you used to get aggravated because they didn't follow the steps and procedures. And yeah, but this is my guy.
This is my guy. Yeah.
But to your point, there is pride in that, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure it gets done exactly right. So you bring it in, you push it through the system.
Yep.
And
I think it's the evolution of a leadership mindset too, to say, look, it's not, if you're ever not going to be just the owner operator, because, we've talking to guys too who are, they do carpentry and things where it's heavy labor jobs.
Yeah.
And they're pushing, like the last 2 days, like my back has been hurting like crazy. I don't know why. Yeah. It's just part of being old, but we talk to guys who are like, hey, I'm physically not able to do what I did, but they never built the business. They never expanded beyond. Right. And I think it's the mentality saying I got to, build a team and build a brand and build a process. Because if, to your point, if the process is the person, then you don't have a process.
Right.
And you can never scale that.
Correct.
And you'll always have miscommunication downstream. You're going to have upset customers, because your guy jumps the line on the gym process or whatever. And accounting doesn't know where this job came from. And
Right. They don't have a customer contact sheet because my dad knows the guy. So he's got him saved in his cell phone. Like, well, we can't bill him through your cell phone. We need the customer contact sheet for accounting so they can bill it.
I think stuff goes downhill pretty quick there. So anyway,
it does.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why it happens too is because no one will do it as good as us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I'm going to do it. I just know how to do it. I'll just do it really quickly because I know how and I'll just get it done.
Yeah.
Right. I am guilty of that. Right. So for quite a while, I was the guy that went to the post office box to get the mail in the morning. I would do that on my way in. I'd get the mail. I'd sort it and I'd pass it out until finally, it was brought to my attention, like, you realize other people can get the mail here, right? Like, you getting the mail, probably not an effective use of your time. Like, yeah, but I just know where it is. Like, can you show someone else where it is? Like, well, yeah, but I've got the key. Can you give them the key? Like, I can, but it's stuff like that, or seeing a problem and saying, well, I'll just fix it because I know how.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you become the problem solver.
Right.
And you are the only problem solver. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is you never hand off that problem solving.
Yeah. And you're not building team. You're not delegating. You're not duplicating capability.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to build capability in a team. Because the goal is that one day you're not swinging the hammer. You're not digging the hole.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not answering the phone every time. And you've built a business that works for you. And as the owner, right, it's funding, and it's anyway. So,
well, that's the thing. So, and where my mind goes is, do you think Sam Walton does inventory?
No,
of course not.
Yeah,
of course he doesn't. He's making different decisions.
Right.
He has a team for that, and he's delegated.
Yeah,
but it's the number I've always heard is if you can find someone to do it at 80% of what you would do it, you hand it off.
Right.
Knowing that 20%, one, you can teach and train and get higher than 80%. And two, that 20%, your time is worth more than that.
Yeah.
You can be doing you can climb the rung of responsibility and do something that's a little bit more relevant to what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think what you do when if you get 100% your way all the time, you've got a whole bunch of people in your office and their team walking around saying, well, what does Joe want? How does Joe want it? And they're trying to get it exactly, and they have no heart in the job that they're doing because they're just walking on eggshells, making sure they get it right for you. And you'll get what you wanted, but you're going to lose the people in the process, Right. And I think if you can get 80%, but you get 100% commitment to that person because it was my idea and the way I did it, and Joe trusts me, and it builds some enthusiasm in the team, and you can live with that 20%.
Well, and one thing that I think you'll find is there's people that know better ways.
Yeah.
Right? Like, my way isn't the best way. It's just the way that I figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
So maybe there's somebody out there that can do it better.
Yeah.
We hire people that are better at doing the thing than we are.
Yep.
The example I give, and so there for a while, so we had the problem where people thought I did everything. They're like, well, when are you going to be out to build the fence? Like, well, actually, I don't build the fence. I got some really good guys that build fence. And believe me, now, could I? Absolutely. I built fence for years. But between me and you don't want me building the fence
Mhm.
because I've got guys that are great at it. Now, when I build a fence, will it look like a fence? Yeah. Will it be acceptable? Probably. But I've got guys that are rock stars.
Yeah.
And they'll blow the lid off this thing. They do work better than I do. That's why I hired them.
Right.
And we take that analogy across the board.
Yep.
Right. Find somebody that's better at handling our accounting than I am. Because shocker, fence guys aren't fantastic at accounting. Right? Like
What?
our QuickBooks was a bit of a shambles when we brought someone in. So you hire somebody that's better at you.
Mm-hmm.
In talking about building teams, we were talking about TikTok earlier. I saw this. I saw a guy talking about this exact thing on TikTok. Talking about guys that are stepping in from craftsmen to owner operators to team builders. The guys that are miserable are the guys that try to do all the stuff they don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they started this because they were craftsmen.
Right.
Well, and they saw the money that was out there and they wanted to go get it for themselves. Fair.
Yep.
But then they found themselves doing the accounting and doing the sales and, and answering the phones. They're like, this is not great. Like, I don't want to do this. I want to be a craftsman. The guys that are the happiest continue being the craftsman and then hire somebody that does the sales.
Yep.
Hire somebody that does the accounting to do the stuff that they're not happy, that they don't want to do.
Right.
But there's guys in the fencing community that they are still in the field the majority of the time. But they've hired the office personnel, the office team to handle that side of it, to let them do what they love doing. They are the craftsmen.
Yeah.
Then typically they become the trainers, right? Because a craftsman is one person, but if you can train 3 people, then you can get more done. But they love being out in the field, and that's where they want to be. So that would probably be one good takeaway is hiring the people to do the things you don't love doing.
Yeah.
So then you're left doing the stuff you like doing.
Yeah. Put the people in the right seats on the bus.
Yes.
You talked about, I was listening to one of your videos and you're talking about culture and you're like, there's no culture button.
Right.
You can't just it's not just, I got culture now. So, but also keeping and retaining employees. Like, so I guess how big is your team now? Probably ebbs and flows, I guess, seasonally a little bit. And
it
then
does.
How do you find and keep good people?
Yeah. So trying to figure that out. Right, like that's constantly a work in progress.
Yeah.
Teams probably around it ebbs and flows 15 to 20 thereabouts, depending on where we are in a growth cycle, where we are in the year, that sort of thing. 15 to 20 people. So, how do you keep and retain them? You try to figure out what they want and help them get it. Right, like that's the saying, right? If you help enough people get what they want, they'll help you get what you want. Right, it's Zig Ziglar maybe, or
nah, man, that's you.
No. And this is another thing I tell people. They're like, "Man, that sounded smart." Like, well, that's because I didn't say it.
Yeah.
Like I'm great at parroting things. I'll hear it and I'll store it and I'll then repeat it.
There's not a lot of new ideas out there. You know what I mean?
No,
like you're gonna learn a lot from people who are just further down the road than you, like
Yes.
Zig Ziglar or John Maxwell or whoever.
Exactly. Exactly. But that's what we're trying to figure out is how do we put a process in place internally that we figure out what people want and how we can help them get it. I mean, in the past, and we have competitive salary or competitive pay, we have benefits, we've got all that type stuff.
But it takes more than that.
It does. And what we find is some people value the benefits differently, right? Like we've got some team members that don't use the benefits at all, right? But we have others that want full use of them, right? So it's always a juggling act to figure out exactly what everybody wants and try to help them get it. It used to be money solved the problem, right? If you just paid enough, then. But what I think people are starting to figure out is they don't want money; they want what money can do, right? Money's a tool.
Yep.
So, do you want to make more money so that you can have time off and spend with your kids? That you can afford to take a day off work? Okay, so maybe now we're talking about paid time off.
Right.
We're not talking about a lot more pay. You want time with your kids. Okay, well, how about a week paid time off a year?
Yeah.
Aside from your vacation, right? Or maybe it's just what people are wanting to do with the money. They want security, safety and security. They want consistency. They want to spend time with their family. So how do we help do that? Like how do we build a safety net? Well, maybe one of the things, this is not a brand endorsement, but we'll use supplemental insurance, right? So accident insurance. So if one of our team members gets hurt at home, this supplements their income while they get better.
Yeah.
Right. So now, which does a couple things. One, they're not walking on eggshells hoping, or if they do get hurt at home, they're not trying to come in and, it helps us in a lot of different ways, but it also gives them a safety net to say, if something does happen, we'll help you get through it and there'll be a job for you coming back. We had a guy turn his ankle really badly, and he was out of work for about 2 months, and this supplemental insurance helped him get through.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then he had a job waiting for him when he came back, and that meant a lot to him. He was a single dad. There's a lot of stuff going on, but that was a safety net that helped him get through that. And it also showed to the team that this thing does work, right? This isn't something we just tell you that you have access to. It actually does work. But I think the key is to keeping or retaining good team members is figuring out what they want and helping them get it.
Yeah. And knowing it's different, and what you value is not the same thing and I think it's a flaw I made as a leader early on is I assumed everybody wanted the same things I wanted.
Right.
And they don't.
Right. No.
know.
If we've got a team of 15 people, we'll have 15 different answers to what they're trying to, what motivates them.
And for some people, it's just appreciation.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like just, being seen and appreciated and valued.
Yep.
And that costs you $0.
Yeah. Having a workplace that you don't dread walking into.
Yeah.
Because when we're doing interviews, and we're in the middle of interviews right now, and my role in the interview is just for fit and culture.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a technical position that I know about, but I have someone else that really knows this. It would be the direct report. So I let them handle the technical discussions.
Yeah.
They know what they're looking for more than I know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So my questions are, who are you? What do you like doing that's not work? Where do you see yourself going? And, are you a good person?
Yeah.
Now, that's not a great question to ask. We'll ask other questions to try to find that answer.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do is build a team that when you wake up Monday morning, you're not dreading going in because you're going to go butt heads with so-and-so, and you're not. If you have a place where you don't mind going into work, that means something too.
Yeah. You spend more time with your coworkers than you do your family. It's just a reality.
Braden's off camera, so it's not good to point to him, but how often do I say that?
He says it a lot.
All the time.
Yeah.
Especially in these interviews. I'm like,
you better like him.
Yes, absolutely. It's because it's the truth. We spend all the time, especially in construction trades. Summer is our big, is our peak month or our peak season.
Tension's high, a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
We're working extra because we've got a lot of work to do, and we're trying to get it done. And there's all these added pressures. So if we have a team that we like, that we get along with then we can work through a lot of that.
Give me some yellow flags or red flags that get raised in that culture interview you're doing. What are things that pop out? You're like, danger zone.
So tell me about your last job, and understand I don't know anybody there. Now, that has to be true, right? But 9 times out of 10, we don't know anyone there.
Yeah.
Tell me about your last job, and why wasn't it a good fit for what you're looking for? I don't need to know their dirty laundry, but why wasn't it a good fit?
Right.
The answer, I'm not looking for the exact answer. I'm looking for the overall theme of the answer, right? Well, I tell you what, so these are real-ish answers from a different job hiring we were going through.
We'll leave the names out.
Innocent,
all that.
Well, one yellow flag's pay.
Yeah.
I wasn't paid what I was worth, which requires follow-up because that might be true.
Could be true.
That very well could be true. Or, me and my manager just like to sit around and watch me work. I did everything, and all I did was make him money. Also requires follow-up. Could be true, but it's not necessarily the answer. It's how they phrase it.
Yeah.
Right. So were there conversations that went on? They'll talk to me about, so if it was pay, talk to me about how like your annual pay negotiations went. Like, how did that look? What did they have a criteria, or how do you base your value, that sort of thing? But when you find rock stars and you talk to them about why they left, it typically isn't those things, right? It's typically it wasn't a good culture fit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what would be a good culture fit, right? Like if you were to wave a magic wand and develop an ideal team, what would it look like?
Yeah.
And listen to what the answers are. But typically, and this is probably a culture thing, but typically happy people don't complain about the past.
Yep.
Right. They might try to explain it, and that's fine, but they don't dwell on just complaining about it.
Yeah.
They figure out, they know what happened, and here's the solution, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the answers, it's how they answer them.
Well, I think it's the perspective, right? Because I can describe the same event in my past from either a victim mindset of here's what happened to me and it was so terrible and blah, blah, or an accountability standpoint of here's the facts, here's what I did, and I think you can view any situation through one or the other. I think you're looking for accountable people who are like, I did what was in my control and
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
they moved on, and I'm future focused and growth mindset. And,
right.
Yeah.
Yes. The guy that talks about how his manager didn't do anything and just watched him work all the time could have come from that from a different angle, right? Like,
Right.
listen, I outproduced my goals on a daily basis. I outperformed, but I never saw that reflected on my paycheck. Right?
Yeah.
Like I overperformed. These are the key metrics I hit, but I just felt like I wasn't valued in that scenario. Because they also, when you look at rock stars, they also are great at taking ownership of what their situation is.
Right.
Right. They don't tend to focus on the others. They focus on themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not that the supervisor, because listen, you and I both know that supervisor probably had reports he was doing. He probably had other people he was managing. His role wasn't to do the thing, the physical thing. It was to try to manage all the moving parts.
Yeah.
But the perspective from the other side was very different.
And your boss's job, I've learned, every time I've gotten promoted, I thought the job would be easier than it was. You get in, you're like, okay, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. You know, leadership is tough, but I think that ownership accountability mindset is pretty huge. I think, have you read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? Yeah, step 1, right? Like basically be accountable.
That's right.
What can you control? What's in your wheelhouse? What can you do? And I think this would be a whole nother episode probably, but culturally that runs rampant of we just blame everybody for things as opposed to saying, hey, what could I have done about it? You know,
or we don't blame anybody.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
This is what it is. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, is what it is.
Another day.
We'll get it next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah. Talking about some of your business practices here. So like we do sales and estimating, and we help guys kind of, we create software, but we're also trying to help people figure out the right way to price jobs to make sure they're profitable. Okay. Because 4 out of 5 small construction businesses go out in the first 5 years. Yes. Most of them don't make it. Right. And most of them are great craftsmen, great builders. Yeah. They know how to build. They know how to build a dang good fence. Yep. But their pricing and estimation is off, and then they wake up one day and they're broke. 9 times out of 10. Yeah. How do you just expound on that one for me? How have you figured out pricing estimates and make sure you price jobs right up front to make sure long-term you're meeting your goals?
So 1, we understand our numbers, right? Like that's step 1 has to be know your numbers. And the reason I emphasize your numbers is, at least in the fencing community, so we've got these Facebook groups where all the fencing professionals hang out. Number 1 question, hey, what do you guys charge for 6-foot wood fence?
What's it going for?
Yeah, what's the going rate?
What's the going rate? Yep, that's what we hear all the time.
Where? How many people do you have? What's your overhead look like? My number and your number are different. Yep. We talked about this on one of my shows where I brought in a fence company that was roughly our size. And the point was that you and I can have the exact same business, exact same number of team members. Maybe we duplicate our shop. And you have the exact same shop, our motivations are going to be different. Our business plan is going to be different. Our end goals are going to be different. Our rates will be different. Similar, but different, right? And we're not even talking about different locations, like different regions that have different, that throw your overhead way out of whack. Like it's going to be different. So you have to know your numbers. One of the things we talk about a lot when you're starting out, a rule of thumb number, and this is a starting point. This is not the end. This is not the end all be all. Materials plus labor cost of materials, cost of labor to produce it, multiply it by 2. It's going to get you pretty close. Like that's a starting point. Now you want to look at it is now cost of labor. It could also be cost of equipment. Are you going to have to rent equipment? You better add that in there because you're paying for it. So are you paying for it out of the goodness of your heart? No, you're doing it to make money. It should be in this total cost to perform this job times 2. Get you to 100% markup, 50% margin. That's a sweet spot. It's a good number for growth. Yeah. Right. So, and when you show up on the job and something's screwed up, so in fencing, we're the last ones on the job. Right. Something's always different.
It's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought about it like that, but yeah.
Because throughout the course of the job, little changes are made. Little changes. Things are a little bit different. You get on the job, the driveway's in a completely different spot, or it's completely different width because all these other accommodations were made. So one of the last guys in generally has to accommodate. So you show up on the job, and it's different. Now you got to rent some. Now you got to rent some equipment, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. Now, this gets into a change order conversation, but let's just say some of this you should have caught and you didn't. You miss something on the plans, whatever it is. You have a rain day on the job. So you got a day of pay or a half day pay, but you don't have production for it. Whatever the 50% makes up for that, right? Or it gives you some grace so that if you do have to go rent a piece of equipment that you didn't think about, now you're not upside down on the job.
Right.
You're not making 50% anymore. Maybe you're making 42%, but you still have money in the bank.
Yeah, you're not losing money.
No. So total cost times 2. And this is an ongoing discussion in the fencing community is there's some guy, there's varying thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of your customer, you're charging them too much. Well, am I? Because we're going to be around in 60 years,
right?
Where we can come service that. We offer a lifetime warranty on our workmanship.
Yeah.
My guys should install the fence in the right way because their training is my responsibility. I'm responsible for the workmanship of the project, so I'm going to warranty it for life. Am I going to be around in 5 years when the gate doesn't work? Because, gates not working aren't typically workmanship, but we typically cover them.
Yeah.
But are we going to be around is the point to service the warranty or the manufacturer's warranty on the materials? Are we going to be around to take care of that for you?
Yeah.
What's that worth?
Yeah.
What's it worth for us to show up exactly when we say we're going to show up, to have the team in place to communicate with you throughout the process? You charge your value.
Right.
Right. So I agree. If you are not communicating with customers, if you're not providing the highest quality, you shouldn't charge the highest money.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because I think the argument is, well, people are going to just start taking it. If they follow this rule, they're just going to start taking advantage of people. True, if they don't also raise their value.
Right.
The funny thing about earning more is you get to provide more value.
Yeah.
So you get to show up exactly when you show up because you're not trying to double book projects.
Right.
You're not overbooking. You're not running it so thin. All right, this project will be done. I estimate Tuesday at 3:00, so we're going to start this one Wednesday, 7:30 in the morning. We got to crush production in here because we got so much expense to cover. Well, maybe you give yourself half a day, right? You guys will thank you for it. That it's not go, go, go. It affords you a better value. You can afford your customer a better value.
I think it's a good point. I think we talked to a lot of guys I think are probably providing more value than they're charging.
Yeah.
Because they actually are pretty good. But there's so many people in trades and construction that come from humble beginnings. They're honest, hardworking people. Yep. My word is my bond, handshake deal, and if it goes over price, that's on me. I'll eat it,
Yes.
And I think what would you say to that person who's probably afraid to raise their prices because they feel, I guess you may have already answered that.
No. There's a whole conversation here.
Yeah.
So there's a gentleman, Tom Reber. He's big in the contractor space.
The Contractor fight.
Yeah,
yep,
right.
We know him.
So he was my business coach for a while, and one of the things I took away from him is, don't take advantage of your family, right? Don't. Mm-hmm. And he uses different wording, but
you need to go home and apologize to your wife for ripping her off.
Right.
It's a bold approach and bold phrasing, but he's not wrong.
Right. You have to price yourself accurately for the value you're giving on both ends.
Right.
You don't want to take advantage of your customer, but also you don't want your family to suffer for it either.
Yeah.
Right. So you're absolutely right about the lifespan of a new starting company. So going from craftsman to owner operator, they typically have just enough money in the bank, maybe savings, maybe not. They've bought a pickup truck. They have a big box store credit card. Now, all of a sudden, they're in business. And so they keep running their run. Now, they were getting paid, call it $30 an hour.
Yeah.
So they said, listen, as long as I can make the equivalent of $40 an hour, I'm in good money. I got a raise.
Yep.
So they do this work throughout the year. They had these hiccups come up. But to your point, they should have seen it coming. They're going to get it on the next one. Well, now they actually didn't make any dollars an hour. They didn't even make, they made nothing on the shop. They lost money.
They'd make more money staying at home.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now they're not going on vacation because, Dad's busy and we got a lot to do. And we got money wrapped in the business. But one day we're going to get out of this and, but that day never comes. Right. And this goes on for years. This goes on for 2 or 3, 4 years. And all of a sudden they come home, the significant other's waiting for them. We have credit card bills. We were behind on this. Your kids don't see you. I don't see you. We're not. What is going on? Why are we paying the price for this dream? Because all of a sudden, we're starting to think this dream is a nightmare because we don't see you as much.
Yep.
We don't have as much. We can't, it usually comes around Christmas, right? Because Christmas presents, we're going to have to scrounge for Christmas.
Yep.
Right? We're having to do this and that and the other.
And your business is slowing down in the winter maybe too,
right?
Depending on your trade.
It is,
yep.
right. So all this comes to a head, and all of a sudden the craftsman says, okay, all right, I'm done. Do you think they return to that workforce? Do you think they return back to that industry?
No.
No, they can't.
Right.
If their pride's in the way, they
right.
can't go back.
So
now that industry loses them.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who was a great craftsman to start with.
Right.
They were great at what they did. They weren't great at running a business.
Right.
Those are two different things.
Yep.
Running a business is almost a trade in itself.
Yeah.
Right. A craft of itself.
It is.
So you can be great. In my world, you can be a rock star at building fence. Beautiful fence. Try to run a business and put yourself out really quickly.
Yeah.
We see it all the time.
Yeah.
But they should have stayed a craftsman.
Yeah.
Right? Because then our industry, the fencing industry, loses them.
Right.
They go off to do some sort of associated trade. Right?
Yeah.
Like for whatever reason, a lot of fence guys go into roofing. So we lose into the roofing industry. Now the roofing industry has an incredible craftsman, and we lost that. We got to try to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer yet.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is knowing your numbers, knowing how to properly sell that job to make sure you've got enough money to take home to the family, that where you're not working late at night, trying to get a little bit more, trying to recover from that job you just lost on.
Yeah.
Afford yourself time with your family. Yeah, you got to figure out how, and it all starts with bidding it properly. It absolutely does.
Right. I think that's kind of, what we're trying to do is we're building software, but really our founder's construction guy loves software. And this is the problem he sees that, similar story to yours, multi-generational home building family. And so, it is about bidding, estimating software, but it's like the heart behind it is like, we want to help guys bid it right so that they're not in that conversation with their spouse, taking out small business loans and to try to get the dream, because it does come around. And how do you build it so that someone who's not tech savvy, doesn't love the business side of it, has a simple tool that helps them get there? And that's what we're trying to do. And
that's huge.
Yeah.
Anytime. So in the fencing industry, there are some softwares that are coming into the industry, but the problem is fence guys, and I'll only speak for fence guys, aren't great at figuring out technology.
Right.
Like that's not what they enjoy doing.
Yeah. They wouldn't be in the trades if they enjoyed that.
Right. They don't enjoy sitting in front of a laptop and trying to program in this many this per section, this many that per section.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is one of the things that these software companies are trying to figure out is how can we make it as intuitive as possible and user-friendly? Because I say you guys, software is trying to help.
Right.
Right. Like you see this problem and you know how to solve for it.
Right.
Let's help you bid it correctly.
Yeah.
You make the money at the sale.
Correct.
Now, you got to keep it throughout the process.
Yeah.
But you make your money at the sale.
Right.
If you give the farm away at the sale, you can't make it up through the process.
True.
Well, you shouldn't make it up through the process. There's guys that try, and they're the ones that typically give industries the bad name.
Yeah.
But you make the money at the sale.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where I was going with that, but this is where you've got to be. You've got to make sure you're charging enough, and using software helps with that because it accounts for all the little things you don't think about.
Yeah, if you think about like even on your website, you guys have that awesome customer facing tool. I've used it as
the
a
online
customer.
quote tool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like
Nice.
because answer my questions, able to do it from my house and get a ballpark idea of what it would cost.
Yep.
Average Joe has no clue how much it costs to build a fence.
Right. Right.
But so you guys, even just your history and talking about marketing and advertising and social media, which you've doubled down on, and you've really been able to grow your business, but it's been forward thinking and a growth mindset, and you've leaned into technology and multiple layers to help build Ozark Fence and Ozark Wireworks, which is the next thing.
Right.
The more I was doing research on him, I'm like, man, this guy's all over the place. So what would you say to the guy who's maybe, look, I don't like technology, not my thing. I'm pen and paper guy. It's what always worked for me.
I don't love it.
Yeah.
But I recognize that it makes us more efficient, and so it makes us more profitable. So I was talking to another contractor about a CRM we use, and it has some automated follow-up sequences in it. And I said, you got to turn these on. Like, yeah, but they take forever to set up. And yes, but once you set up, they are automated, right? They just happen by nature. So we have an automated follow-up sequence to where when you send out a proposal, on the quote tool. So once a quote tool is submitted, it starts an automated sequence to follow up to schedule a phone call. If you don't schedule a phone call within 3 days, you get another follow-up. All of this follow-up happens automatically, all in the back end. Now, it took a lot of time to figure out, but I really believe it has saved us at least one team member's pay.
For sure.
An admin assistant or whatever you want to call that position, the communications person in the business. Now we've automated that. We've saved on that payroll, and we could allocate it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. We arguably give a better experience to our customers because they are getting consistent communication. It's not they were out or there's a lot going on. The phone was ringing. They forgot to send out emails that day. They get an email Friday morning at 7:30. Here's your project update. So the customers are getting a better solution. We're getting a better solution. We're saving money also in it. So technology will take time to get set up correctly. But once you do, you make up for it in spades over the years. Right?
Yeah.
Like you invest a little bit of time up front, but it ends up paying off.
Yeah, I think that's we try to liken it sometimes, even just new tools or technology that comes out. It's like, well, like the guy, people rejected the nail gun in the beginning. Right?
I use this example so much. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's but they rejected it in the beginning because it's new and it's different. Think about the time savings that provides you.
Yeah. Well, when the nail gun came out, it was going to, no one could drive a hammer like a craftsman, or drive a nail with a hammer like a craftsman. Just couldn't do it. But I think people have figured out the efficiencies available are massive.
Right.
We have this conversation in fencing on nails versus screws. Like, should you use a ring shank nail or should you use a screw? Ring shank nail for production, right? Because you can get so many more nails driven and the end result is close, right? Like, I'm not going to get into that argument, but it is close.
We got a spicy hot take coming in.
When a fence fails in 15 years, it won't be because of the nails.
Right.
Right. Like, it just isn't the fasteners. But we upgrade equipment. We train on new equipment as far as nail guns. We implement them into our companies because they bring efficiency. And you can view any tool that way, and software being a tool. Yeah. Once you implement it into the system. Now, we do have to do training on nail guns, right? Yeah. Because if not, accidents happen. Yeah. Right. So there is a time investment in it. Right. But it's worth it because it brings efficiencies.
Yeah. I think I was talking to Richard McMurray. He has a Finished Carpentry TV. He's on YouTube. Yep. But we were talking about the same subject. And he was like, look, estimates and proposals is the worst part of my job. He was like, I would rather out be doing hard labor in the hot sun than sitting behind a computer doing this thing. And so it's interesting perspective because like we're trying to build like it's like going to the dentist or something, people just they don't want to do it, it's trying to take the pain out of it.
Well, it circles back around to hiring out what you don't love doing.
Yeah.
Right. And so software is hiring out or onboarding software, however you want to look at it, to do something you don't love doing.
Yeah.
I would agree with him. Estimating and takeoffs is not something I love doing. Now, we obviously do it because that's, like I said, the money's made in the beginning. So you take extra time and you do it, but by bringing software in that can do it for you, it lets you get back out into the field.
Yeah, doing what you love.
That's right.
I got one last question for you. So I think I either heard you say it or read it somewhere. You said, "Hey, we're a customer service company that happens to build fences."
Yep.
What does that mean to you?
You got to treat your customers right. Now, and there's more to this. So you have internal customers and external customers. As a business leader, internal customers and external customers, right? Internal customers is our team. External customers are our clients. You make sure they're both happy, make sure they both get what they want. They help you get what you want, right? Which could be anything. It could be business growth. It could be whatever you want it to be. But by being a customer service company first, that happens to do whatever it is you do. Now, listen, again, I'm good at parroting. That's a Gary Vaynerchuk quote. So I picked it off of one of his TikToks or YouTubes or something, but it stuck. I was like, that is absolutely the correct way to view our business is we take care of our people, our team, and our clients first by doing our thing, right? So if you lean into customer service, no one ever regretted having too good of customer service. Right. Like no customers ever complained that the customer service was too good. That is memorable, right? Especially that saying becomes more applicable the further we get into business, especially during the pandemic era, where my experience was dealing with companies that customer service was the first thing to go. They're like, listen, if you want the thing I've got, you'll put up with it, okay? Because if not, I've got a whole bunch of other people that want it. I'll just sell it to them. Not a great customer service answer, but it's an answer they could get away with, right? Because the business was there. We saw this with wholesalers, which one of the reasons we started our own manufacturing business is like, that's a horrible answer. Like, that is not the answer at all. I think we could provide a customer service answer there that does really well. And customers like it. And so then they tell their friends about it, sort of thing.
I think too, like, there's not, for a lot of people, a fence is a one-time purchase.
Yeah.
It's not a recurring, I buy one every 6 months.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. But it's like so if they're going to buy it once, that means that their referral to someone else who needs a fence next time is even more important, because you're not getting recurring revenue off the same customer. Right. You're getting word of mouth in the community.
Yeah. I mean, you could find new business one of only a few ways. You can go pay for it, right? By socially, you can go pay for leads, however it is that you want to do it. Or you can buy word of mouth, right? And word of mouth is these customer referrals. And those don't cost anything.
Right.
Right. Unless, I mean, you could factor in the cost of customer service maybe into that, but it will always be less than going and buying a lead. And when that person comes into you as a lead, they are an incredibly warm lead. Right. They already know you. You've already built trust through this mutual person they know.
They might have seen the fence. You know, like,
absolutely. Well, and they've gotten a good referral, so they automatically trust us.
Right.
They know reasonably that whatever we come out to do for them, we're going to do well, because we did well for this person that they knew. Because your word of mouth is huge, and there's a thing there about companies that only rely on word of mouth too. Like, it needs to be a good mix. But so we've got this, and actually I haven't talked about it in a while. So we had this program going, and as I'm thinking about this, I should talk to it more about the team. I haven't talked about it lately, but we had this thing going to where, so just like little acts of kindness while we're on a job site. If you see something that needs repaired or needs fixed, whether or not we did it, and it's within a couple $100, go do it. Yeah. Right. So it's these little acts of kindness. And the one that comes to mind is, so we were placing a backyard fence for this lady, and you could tell by her backyard it was her oasis. Like, there was a nice waterfall feature back there. It was immaculately trimmed. This is where she went, 9 times out of 10. This was her happy place. So, and us replacing the fence was probably one of the last parts in that. She had it all figured out. The fence was kind of falling apart. We're kind of come in with a really nice fence. So I was talking about it with the guys, like, listen, we have to knock this one out of the park. This lady, this is her Zen garden. This is whatever it is. We have to get this really right. And so the guys were out there, and the team leader, Scott, called me and said, hey, there's a broken paver. And we didn't break it. Like, we didn't drive over it, but there's a broken paver. Can I go replace this thing? Yeah, like, yes. What does a paver cost? It doesn't cost. Is it less than $200? Absolutely. Like, unless it's some wildly crazy one, right? Is there a big box store around that you think carries it? Yeah, it'd be about a 5-minute drive. Well, get the guys going on something. Take the truck, go buy one and replace it. Get the guys, make it a 2-for-1, right? Get the guys some waters, and it was in the summer. Waters and Gatorades while you're there. Pick up the paver, replace the paver. And he did. He's like, do you want me to go tell her? Absolutely not. Nope, just leave it and go. Like, okay. And so then probably a week later, I get a call saying, did you guys replace this paver or the stepping stone, whatever it is? Like, oh, yeah. No, the guy saw that it was broken. You obviously take really good care of your yard. That was just like the final piece after we got the fence done to tie it all together. She said, do you know, this is an older lady, do you know I've been asking my kids to redo that or to fix that for the last year, and I couldn't get any one of them to do it. She goes, thank you so much. She goes, because this stepping stone was on the way to the waterfall, and there's like a bench near the waterfall.
Yeah, she
saw this thing. Yes, every day. Yeah, every time she went out there. Yeah. Now, who do you think she thinks of every time she walks across that?
She orange fence company.
That's right. Yeah. And in every Facebook group, that, the welcome to so-and-so, welcome to Republic, who builds fence? She is diving in there head first to say, you've got to choose Ozark Fence, because not only are they reputable, not only do they build a good fence, but they actually care about your yard. Yeah. And she shares her story sometimes. I don't know what that paver costs. Yeah. It doesn't matter what that paver costs, because we can attribute to at least 2 or 3 projects to replacing that paver. We have paid for that thing many times over. Yeah. right? And it's the pay it forward, or it's the random act of kindness, whatever you want to call it. The customer service matters.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that absolutely leads to more sales coming in the future.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That mentality of customer service generates revenue.
Absolutely.
It's a revenue generating unit of your business.
Absolutely. So. And then it leads to reputation.
Yeah.
And it helps your brand. And it supercharges all of this stuff. It touches everything. And usually it doesn't take a lot of effort. It takes effort, but it doesn't take a ton. You don't have to have a team member that their only job is devoted to this surprise and delight stuff.
Yeah.
Your existing team can do it.
Yeah.
You just have to put it in place.
Yeah. And it's a fun thing to look for and find, So.
Our guys love doing stuff
totally.
like that. Like that's why we've got new team members that we haven't talked about it lately, and I think that they would enjoy it. So we have a final Friday, the last Friday of every month. We have lunch where we bring all the team in. We all eat and break bread together, and we usually have a point to talk about. I think that's going to be this month's is surprise and delight. So
nice, very cool.
I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's really cool. All right, well, we'll let you get out of here. I know you got a lot going on. Again, if someone wants to find more of your content on YouTube, it's a fence expert.
Yeah, search Joe Everest pretty much on all the social platforms, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn. You'll find me.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your insights and knowledge. I mean, you built a great thing with what you're doing, and just you made it. It's normal to you, right? But your mentality, your forward thinking, what you're building, a lot of guys could be learning from out there. And so, thanks for just kind of opening up your head and sharing your thoughts. Even if you're ripping off half your quotes from other people, that's what everyone does. I have a rule: the first time I give that person credit, second time it's mine. So, yeah.
Well, and sometimes I just legitimately don't know where I heard it from.
Well, that's what happens. Yeah. But your intake, you're clearly reading, you're learning. I mean, you've got wise people in your ear and in your headspace. And,
Well, so it's the. Again, a quote. So you are the sum of the people you surround yourself with.
Totally.
Right. So, and you could surround yourself with physically, you could surround just by the content you're taking in.
Yeah.
Right. So I am cognizant of that, of when I'm watching TikToks and watching YouTube or Facebook or reading a book or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, where is this content heading?
Yeah.
Like, is it making me better? Is it sometimes for mental health, it's good just to blow off steam.
Yeah.
Right. So, some of my TikToks have nothing to do about business, right?
Yeah.
The ones I'm watching, but most of them do.
Yeah.
And most of the time is spent like that so then I can pick up things like this and I can apply it to my business and I can try to help other people apply it to their business.
Yeah. That's awesome. I definitely got out of this. I got some Joe Everest quotes that I'll be spouting off. I'll give you credit once, second time I'm stealing it though.
Do it.
I always say.
Cool, I've had a great time. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in.
Of course.